So we are planning a 5 days class in spring next year. What are the benefits of doing the upper and the lower body in one class?
Yeah, so this was an idea that I came up with really when I was traveling to go and teach in New Zealand this past year, and it was not going to be possible for them to get an instructor back to teach the other half very easily. So I said I would trial it and see what happened, and then afterwards confirmed with you, Michaela, that we were going to do it also in one 5 day class. With the vascular curriculum, because it is a new approach, we do have quite a lot of theory, which usually takes us maybe 6 or 7 hours of the class, and it's repeated usually in both of the classes. So usually you lose 6 or 7 hours in one class and 6 and 7 hours in the other class to the theory and understanding of how the systems work. The nice thing about combining them is we only have to teach one lot of the theory. So this gives us back automatically 6 or 7 hours because we are keeping the class hours exactly the same as they would be had they been two classes, rather than doing one 2.5 or two in a short day class and another two in a short day class. We add them together, the hours, so you still get the full hours, but it gives us an extra 6 or 7 hours of practical time, which the students in New Zealand where I was teaching really enjoyed and found that that was very beneficial.
I think we are already looking forward to have a lot of practical work with our hands there. And could you give us a short overview about the content, what is included in the class?
Sure. So, of course, we have the theory and new techniques we need to introduce for working with the vascular system. We then start looking from the heart, working through the aorta, around the arch of the aorta, and then looking at all the branches that come off as the aorta travels. So we're starting off with things like the subclavian branch. We're looking at the carotids and into the neck, and then all the branches that supply the head and give us the perfusion there. We look at what is going to supply down the arms. We look at what supplies the breast and the thorax area. And then we travel down below the diaphragm and we start to look at the perfusion of a lot of the visceral organs, of course, working with the aorta first, abdominal aorta, and then looking at the perfusion for the liver, for the stomach, for the spleen and pancreas, for all the different abdominal organs. That's not all of them, obviously. We have the intestines and so on as well. And then we look at the connection down into the legs and also working with some of the pelvic organs. So looking at the perfusion for the uterus, for example, is another part that we include.
It sounds a lot of work and a lot of ways we travel with the arteries, but that's why we have the 5 days and why we walk. I think we walk down step by step, and
That's right.
and you will bring
And
us to all of them.
yeah, and what I found with the 5 days in New Zealand that was a little different from teaching 3 day class here is that by the time you've done 5 days of techniques, you've not only mapped all of the major arteries in the body, so you already know the approach, but you also learn in your hands really how to work properly with arteries. And in the 3 days, sometimes I found it was just a little bit short for people to get the full experience of working with the different types of arteries or the different types of restrictions you get. For example, it's different to work with a very muscular one. Very muscular artery compared with a more structured structure. For example, like the aorta, for example, is very structured but doesn't have quite as much muscular contraction in its walls compared with one of the more peripheral ones, which is much smaller and has a different structure. So through the 5 days, because we experience so many different types of arteries and blood vessels within the body, we do get more experience in the hands, and I found the students were really going away feeling very well equipped by the end of the class to work with the blood vessels.
I'm really happy we will have you with us next year in spring for you to come back to Austria. And
Absolutely.
yeah, I'm really, really happy to welcome you then.
Thank you.